Protest actions both on land and on water as experts warn higher prices are still to come. Cost-oriented groups from drivers to fisherfolk are threatening to cease operations if the government fails to take tougher action. Our senior correspondent David Santos has more.
The writing is on the wall. Drivers are facing sticker shock at the pumps. A liter of diesel in some gas stations now surpassing the 80 peso mark, while regular gasoline hitting over 84 peso per liter.
Sana, kung meron may mga lasakit ang gobyerno sa amin, medyo ipakita naman nila.
Transport groups fuming over surging gas prices are threatening to go on strike. And while the government offers a 6,500 peso fuel subsidy, drivers say that amount barely helps.
Baka kulangin pa po ma'am sa isang linggo doon sa malalaking makina na mga ginagamit namin na mga jeepney kagaya po ng biyaheng Cubao-Antipolo. Yung pong mga lugar na yan. Yung pong biyahe namin po dyan sa Baguio, yung mga La Union to Baguio, yung mga bus namin, mga UB Express namin po doon, ay kulang po yung 2,000 na kanilang ikinakarga na krudo isang araw. So kung hintayin nyo po yung 6,500, ilang araw lang po nilang gagamitin yan.
From the streets, protesters also calling for more action at Laguna Lake.
Isipin mo naman, yung 80% na kinikita namin para na lamang sa gasolina mapupunta.
Kaya marami sa ating mga mangingisda ngayon ay nakakaisip na maghanap na lamang ng ibang trabaho para mapunan yung kanilang mga pangangailangan sa pang-araw-araw.
Fisher organizations want government aid more than just fuel discounts. They too could hold operations that could affect the flow of fish supply and the prices.
Hirap din po kami, wala kaming kita.
From fishing to transporting them to wet markets, there's no denying the impact of skyrocketing gas prices on our fish supply. No relief in sight, at least for now, both for wary fishermen and consumers alike.
Lolit Menchilina used to get a kilo of fresh tilapia at 80 pesos. Now she has to pay 20 pesos more.
Ang gasolina po natin ang tumataas, kaya lahat po ng produkto natin ay tumataas.
The high fuel cost is also impacting businesses like Aldi Perantes Carinderia. He is likewise forced to jack up prices of his menu.
Sir, tiyaga-tiyaga na lang sir kasi kung hindi na kami magtsatsaga, wala rin kami kakainin.
David Santos, CNN Philippines.
In Valencia City, Bukidnon commuters are confused because Motorella drivers are now asking for an additional 5 pesos to the 10 peso minimum fare without the approval of the local LTFRB. A Motorella, which is a hybrid of a tricycle and a mini jeep, is a common mode of transportation in the province. From the usual 4 people, commuters say some drivers are now taking 5 passengers, partly to cope with high fuel prices. Valencia Vice Mayor Paul Murillo, who also chairs the city's Motorella Regulatory Board, has expressed alarm. He says board members will meet tomorrow to address these concerns. Government subsidies should have or could have cushioned the impact of the massive fuel price hike on PV drivers. But as Amor Santos reports, many of them were left waiting on the day the government promised to start the payouts.
This is the common sentiment of jeepney drivers on Tuesday, the day the government promised to start the fuel subsidy payouts in the midst of yet another hefty fuel price hike. Virgilio Durban hoped the 6,500 peso fuel subsidy would be credited to his Pantawid Pasada card by Tuesday afternoon. But
Pina-check ko lang kung mayroon na pong laman, kaso wala pa po.
he went on to work, knowing he'll again have a small take-home pay. Most jeepney drivers we talked to said the cards are still with their operators and still empty. The subsidy would have been a welcome relief for drivers like 45-year-old Jesus Peralta, a father of 4.
Tulad ko, may college ako, may high school ako, elementary, may nagagatas. Sobra pa sa sintron.
His operator says the government should provide separate assistance for drivers and operators.
Kasi ang operator din, nangangailangan din sila. Di naman pwede namin taasan ang boundary dahil sa hirap ng panahon. May mga driver naman nagka-problema din sa sakyan nila. Kaya napunta doon sa maintenance.
Naintindihan namin yung operator. Malaki yung gastos ng gesta, makakuha na ng bayarin. Ang inaano lang namin, Magkaroon kami ng konti, okay na yun.
Peralta says he'll be forced to join other drivers in halting trips if fuel prices continue to soar.
Kung 100 ang magiging krudo, ano pa mangyayari sa amin? Wala na.
The LTFRB says over 100,000 jeepney drivers will get their fuel subsidies within a week. Others are still applying for the Pantawid Pasada cards.
Wala pang card eh. Card ang kailangan eh. Kasalukuyan pa ina-apply.
The government targets to complete the distribution of fuel subsidies in 2 weeks. From printing of cards to the payout. Drivers say 6,500 pesos will be gone in a matter of days, but they need all the help they can get. Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
Suspending excise taxes on fuel is on the table of President Duterte. Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi yesterday said the president called for a meeting today to discuss spiraling fuel costs. Energy and finance officials are expected in that meeting, scheduled at 6 this evening. No word yet if that meeting is underway. Economic managers earlier rejected the idea of suspending excise and value-added taxes on oil and instead offered other interventions. Meanwhile, officials are looking into supposed anomalies in the distribution of aid to workers in Quezon City. The Office of the Ombudsman says it is conducting a motu proprio investigation into the Labor Department's TUPAD program. The Cash for Work assistance aims to help displaced or disadvantaged workers amid the health crisis. The Ombudsman says its probe will focus on alleged illegal payment deductions and collection of processing fees from beneficiaries. The DOLE earlier suspended the TUPAD program in Quezon City over reported irregularities. Today marks exactly 2 years since Metro Manila, a pandemic hotspot, was placed on lockdown. Unless needed, millions of people were forced to stay at home in what was supposed to be a month-long quarantine. But that turned into years of restrictions as the country grappled with ballooning COVID-19 cases. 2 years later, the capital region is seeing a clear road to recovery under the most relaxed Alert Level 1, while the whole Philippines is considered low risk for COVID-19 with vaccination in full swing.
Lahat ng ating region sa ating buong bansa ay nasa low risk classification na. Ang ating ICU at saka other bed utilization is all less than 50%. Deaths naman ngayon ay patuloy na bumababa din. Wala tayong nakikitaan na any regions na may uptick or pagtaas ng mga kaso.
Ito na siguro yung pinakamahabang panahon na wala tayong naging biglang pagdami ng kaso. If I'm not mistaken, siguro halos 2 buwan na tayong mababa and really it's a huge blessing. And this is really a good time to start thinking about our next phase or intensify those preparations for the next phase.
As the country ushers in the new normal, the government extends the 4th national vaccination program in some regions until this Friday, March 18th. Around 1.4 million people have been inoculated, still short of the 1.8 million target. National Vaccination Operations Center Chief Mirna Cabotaje says this may be the last massive rollout. The next immunization drive will focus on areas with low vaccine coverage. More students can soon begin face-to-face classes again under the lowest alert level, but the Commission on Higher Education says the final say is still with the colleges and universities. Our Paige Javier has more.
Miguel Rizon and Samantha Mones are just some of the students who are set to return to the classrooms this semester. Miguel is a third-year chemical engineering student, while Samantha is a nursing freshman. They say they've been preparing for face-to-face classes for months now, but it was delayed by the Omicron surge.
Sa course ko, kailangan talaga mag face-to-face, may social interaction with one another.
At first kasi masaya kasi I'll be doing lab works with my thesis mates and finally visit UP. Yes, maganda may option na, but I don't think a lot of students would opt to do it because of the proposed guidelines.
Miguel says students can either live outside campus or in college dormitories, but movement will be restricted to avoid the spread of the virus. He believes the additional costs may burden some students and parents. The Interagency Task Force has approved new guidelines for face-to-face classes for colleges in areas under Alert Level 1.
Tuloy pa din yung ating requirement na only vaccinated students and faculty can go to and attend the face-to-face classes. Number two, the capacity of the facilities is now up to 100%, including dormitories and gymnasiums, etc. Number three, the universities will open on their own.
College students participating in physical classes must register with PhilHealth and get medical insurance. Miguel and Samantha are confident to return to the classroom given the protocols in place.
What they recommended still was limited capacity in the lab.
If kailangan namin mag-return demonstration or gumamit ng laboratory, doon lang po kami papasok sa school.
Commission on Higher Education Chairman Popoy De Vera says schools will have the final say on the mode of learning.
Flexible learning is still the policy. Hindi naman kailangang bumalik doon sa siksikan na 100%. Pwede mo gawing 50% lang. Doon sa consultation naman namin sa mga schools, walang nagbabalak na ibalik 100% yung kanilang mga estudyante.
CHED says over 300 private and public higher education institutions are already conducting face-to-face classes. They expect more schools to follow suit next school year. Paige Javier, CNN Philippines.
Up next, a walkthrough of the Commission on Elections ballot printing process ahead of the May polls, and what are presidential candidates saying about the latest Pulse Asia survey, where former Senator Bongbong Marcos leads by a whopping 60%. Newsnight returns after the break. Welcome back. COMELEC gives a walkthrough of its ballot printing process as groups call for more transparency 55 days before the Filipino votes. Melissa Lopez joins us live from Quezon City. Mel, go ahead.
Pia, members of political parties, poll watchdogs, and media were allowed to enter the National Printing Office for the first time since ballot printing started in January. This walkthrough was initially scheduled for next week, but Chairman Saidamen Pangarungan opted to do it earlier amid mounting criticisms of lack of transparency. Election lawyer Romy Macalintal, who represents Vice President Leni Robredo's camp, wants the poll body to conduct a random sampling of the printed ballots to make sure that these are not pre-shaded and that all security features are in place. Macalintal says this would rectify what he calls unforgivable disservice of the poll body when it pursued ballot printing without witnesses. Commissioner George Garcia says this request will likely be granted once Macalintal submits a formal petition to the UNBank. Senator Amy Marcos, sister of presidential bet Bongbong Marcos, earlier raised the alarm about the printing process being done in secrecy and said COMELEC may be violating the law. COMELEC officials have said previous restrictions were enforced due to the pandemic. Casquejo also reacted to Macalintal's allegation that the camp of Robredo was denied access to the printing facility.
Actually, if you try to read my letter, it's not a rejection. It's just something like, as of now, hindi pa po pwede. But ito na nga, since okay na tayo, okay na yung pandemic natin, wala nang surge, so we already open.
As of Tuesday morning, COMELEC has printed and verified over 34 million out of the 67.44 million ballots needed for the May 9 polls. The facility can print 1.1 million ballots per day as NPO pursues a 24/7 shift. Casquejo says printing will likely be finished by March 28, although ballots will still be checked for defects before these are deployed across the country and to embassies overseas next month. So far, some 5.3 million printed ballots found with smudges, misprints, and other errors will be shredded and replaced with new ones. Pia, back to you.
Melissa Lopez there reporting from the National Printing Office in Quezon City. Our presidential candidates are determined to push forward despite the latest Pulse Asia voter preference survey where Bongbong Marcos leads the pack. As Anjo Alimario tells us, at least 2 aspirants doubt the results.
The dictator's son and namesake Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos is still a top choice for president in the latest Pulse Asia survey. His 60% rating remains unchanged. His camp says their opponents are still having a hard time connecting with Filipino voters. The survey was conducted from February 18 to 23, or before the massive campaign rallies of Vice President Leni Robredo. Robredo's numbers dropped by 1%, but she's not worried.
So too early ito para sabihin na hindi na tayo makakahabol or talon-talo tayo.
Robredo says in 2016 her numbers started picking up by late March and April. While her ranking has yet to improve, attacks against her have already intensified. For someone who's been a victim of disinformation for the past 6 years, Robredo says she's already used to it.
So yung sa akin, kung ang intent niya i-derail yung efforts na ginagawa natin, nagsasayang sila ng oras.
Manila Mayor Isko Moreno is in solo third with 10%.
Salamat sa Diyos, but again, the same answer, we will continue to be with people, reach as many kilometers as possible, reach as many eyeballs as possible.
Senator Manny Pacquiao follows with 8% and Senator Panfilo Lacson with 2%. Both find the results hard to believe.
Base sa akin, no, sa sarili ko naramdaman sa ground, parang hindi ko kayang tanggapin na pagkatapos pa ng mga presidential forums, saka mga interviews, lalo pa akong lalagapak.
Zero, grabe. Sino kaya maniwala, no? Dapat tinanong nila yung baka yung mga mayayaman lang tinanong nila. Hindi nila tinanong yung mga mahihirap na tao.
Presidential candidate Roberto Gonzales vows to continue reaching out to voters despite lagging in surveys.
Hindi na ko nakikita ang lakas ng eleksyon sa paramihan ng rally, palakihan ng pahabaan ng motorcade. Sa akin ang pinaka-importante ay yung makita, nauunawaan na ba ng sambayan ng Pilipino ang direksyon.
In General Santos City, Anjo Alimario, CNN Philippines.
2 presidential candidates faced off at a virtual forum for college students. Former presidential spokesperson Ernesto Abella and former Defense Secretary Norberto Gonzales answered questions about education, health, economic recovery, and security at an event organized by the Student Council of the Polytechnic University of the Philippines in Quezon City. Aspirants gave varying answers on the issue of good governance.
Corruption, the social inequality, the lack of love for the nation, and the lack of trust in government. Ang nakikita ko na pwede talaga makapagbigay tugon dyan is to engage civil society in the everyday governance.
Kailangan tayong magkaroon ng pagbabago ng sistema ng politika sa Pilipinas. Pwede nating pag-aralan ang parliamentary system.
It is unclear if all the presidential candidates were invited to the forum. Labor leader Leody de Guzman, who is campaigning in Mindanao, originally confirmed his attendance, but he failed to join because of connectivity issues. His campaign manager, Sonny Melencio, answered questions on his behalf. A security expert raising concerns over China's intrusion into the Sulu Sea. The Foreign Affairs Department has summoned Chinese Ambassador Wang Xilian over the illegal incursion and lingering presence of a Chinese Navy vessel in Philippine waters last January 29th. The vessel claimed it was only exercising innocent passage.
For us, it's a security threat. It's very clear that China's presence in that area is a threat to our security because it's creating a security anxiety. Because we feel violated, we feel that our territorial integrity is being violated. We feel that they are incurring in our territorial waters. So it's very clear security threat. But whether we can legally account China for their actions, that's another matter.
This is not the first time the DFA summoned China's ambassador. In 2019, a Chinese aircraft carrier passed through Philippine waters without permission. Straight ahead on Newsnight, only 2 days until the Miss World coronation, the country's Beth shares how her closed-door interview went. And fans of BTS can look forward to hearing this member's voice in a new K-drama's soundtrack. Details when we return. Welcome back. Breaking news at this hour. By tomorrow and until the end of the month, Metro Manila will remain under Alert Level 1. The Interagency Task Force also says 47 other areas will be placed under the lowest COVID-19 risk classification. The list includes the cities of Naga, Cebu, and Davao. You can visit cnnphilippines.com for the full list. Areas not on this list will be on Alert Level 2 until March 31st. Many employees Many employees and companies also preparing to return to on-site work as establishments and activities are now allowed to operate at full capacity. Our Chrissy Matulak reports.
Jen Gonzalez works at a business process outsourcing or BPO company. Now that life is slowly returning to normal, she is preparing for on-site work. Jen admits that after 2 years of working from home, it will take some time for her to adjust to on-site work and be away from her kids.
As an advocate for the company, I have to support the company who supported us for 2 years. Virtually, ang hirap mag-engage with one another, di ba? Hindi mo kasi malaman kung anong ginagawa nila. At least this time, you'll get to spend more face time with them.
Companies are also gearing up for the new normal. Some firms have retained their transportation service for employees to help them adjust to on-site work.
wala kaming additional incentives for our employees, but yung shuttle namin, yung extended routes ng shuttle namin is still in place.
According to the Finance Department, the current allocation is for the fuel subsidy of drivers of public utility vehicles. Finance Department spokesperson Paula Alvarez explains how companies can utilize the subsidy to their advantage.
You can hire shuttles for your employees, and then ang i-partner mo yung mga registered na public utility vehicles na nakakatanggap ng targeted support. That way, you benefit from the support the government gives the public utility drivers, and at the same time, yung public utility drivers assured sila na meron silang business na mag-ooperate.
The DOF says companies can still offer flexible work arrangements. However, companies operating at eco-zones or those that are registered under the Fiscal Incentives Review Board need to use their offices for them to continue receiving benefits.
Hindi sila nagbabayad ng tax. So meron silang income tax holiday. Yun yung number one. That's wala silang kahit anong binabayarang tax. Or yung mga nasa different tier na ng kanilang period to operate in an eco-zone, nagbabayad lang sila ng 5% tax in lieu of all other taxes.
With a series of fuel price hikes and rising costs of commodities, employees and private companies hope that the government continues to assist them while transitioning to the new normal. Chrissy De Matulak, CNN Philippines.
This just in, the Labor Department welcomes the Ombudsman's probe into the alleged anomalies in its TUPAD program. Dole says this is the same case that the Secretary ordered investigated late last year. It adds the Ombudsman is on the right track to, quote, look into the possible complicity of some people in government. Now, moving on to other stories, no need to pull your mask down for Face ID on some iPhones. Beginning today, Apple just released iOS 15.4. This enables facial recognition for unlocking your phone and takes the place of your Apple password while you're masked up because of COVID protocols. But there's a catch. This feature only works for the iPhone 12 and newer models. The software update also comes with 37 new kinds of emojis. These include a melting face and the famous finger heart. iOS 15.4 is available for the iPhone 6s and up and some iPads. On to the beauty pageant scene, Tracy Maureen Perez giving fans an update 2 days before she takes to the stage for the Miss World crown. The Cebuana queen shares that she finished the closed-door interview in Puerto Rico today and calls it, in her words, very light and fun. Tracy is among the early favorites entering the top 30 after winning in pre-pageant competitions. Catch Coronation Night on Thursday, March 17th at 8:30 in the morning Philippine time, and a pre-pageant special with our senior anchor Pinky Webb at 8 a.m. only here on CNN Philippines. Now, this one's for K-pop and K-drama fans. Jimin of BTS will be part of the soundtrack of Our Blues. As confirmed by Korean news outlets, Jimin recorded a song for the much-awaited K-drama. The star-studded cast includes Shin Min-ah and Kim Woo-bin. Jimin now joins fellow BTS vocalists Jin, V, and Jungkook, who have sung for OSTs. And that is it for now. Join me again on Politics as usual, now from 8 to 9 in the evening, Tuesday evenings. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. A former lawmaker and human rights activist vows to defend press freedom as he throws his hat into the 2022 race. On Twitter, vice presidential aspirant Walden Bello, the running mate of Labor leader Leoty de Guzman, said they will implement measures to stop attacks against journalists if the tandem succeeds in their election bids. Bello adds they will shut down troll farms and move to restore the franchise of embattled media giant ABS-CBN. The aspirant also remembered the Maguindanao massacre 12 years ago and pledged to seek justice for the victims. 58 people were killed in the incident, including more than 30 media workers. We now have with us for up close Vice Presidential aspirant Walden Bello. Good evening, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. Very quickly now, let's go through these promises you made about protecting media workers and journalists. Go ahead, sir.
Let me just say that the role of the media is extremely important. We do have a number of major proposals to protect journalists. I would say that we do need a special prosecutorial team that would be just focused on investigating and making sure that justice is done when it comes to the killings or the hurting or the threatening of journalists. That I think is extremely important. We did say that yes, we are going to push for the restoration of the ABS-CBN franchise, and we will dismiss all charges that have been made up by the Duterte administration against Maria Ressa and Rappler. Pia, the problem really is not just random violations by politicians. It is really the mood of being anti-free press that encourages these kinds of violations below. And Malacanang under President Duterte has been so anti-free press, that it's almost like a license to people that would like to destroy the freedom of the press because their interests are being affected,
Yes.
by local and national journalists.
Yeah.
So we really need to get this atmosphere of intimidation that
Sir.
is represented by Duterte. That is number one.
Yes,
That
well,
has
sir,
to be removed.
Let's be very specific. When you say that number one, you're going to move to restore ABS-CBN's franchise and dismiss all these cases against Rappler's Maria Ressa, how exactly are you going to do that? Because of course, franchise is the responsibility hawak yan ng House of Representatives. So a President Leody de Guzman would order or coax congressmen to give ABS-CBN its franchise, and then for the cases against Maria Ressa et al., you're going to order the judge to rule to dismiss the cases or to say that Maria Ressa is not guilty. Ganun po ba?
Yeah, on the second, on Maria Ressa, you remember it is the executive that has launched these charges against Maria Ressa. Okay,
Wasn't it the private citizen? It was a private citizen who filed the cases.
Yes, but it is backed by the executive. Okay, and I think that once you have a different administration, that basically says it is not going to support, the prosecution of these charges against Maria Ressa, I think that will make all the difference. Alam mo naman, Pia, nagbibiro tayo eh. Hindi naman yung private citizen na yun is really the one. He's being pushed by Malacanang. That's it. Wag na tayo magbiroan. That's Duterte's ploy. And if we but to go to the second point, yes, Congress will have to take a role in terms of restoring the franchise. But we all know naman, that the reason that those members of Congress voted, to take away the franchise
Is
against
because the
ABS-CBN
president spoke out against
because of
ABS.
Malacanang.
Yes,
You know,
okay.
was
Well,
because of
yes.
Malacanang's pressure.
Well,
So,
of course, yes. Well, sir, yes. Actually, this private citizen you referred to has already said before that he has done this on his own. Anyway, sir, we need to move on to another favorite topic of yours, Bongbong Marcos and the Marcos family. So first, my question is, President Duterte has gone after Bongbong Marcos, saying he is a weak leader. and a spoiled child. But syempre, top of mind for all of us kasi is that he's leading the survey. So that's why else would people be attacking him, right, sir? Kasi, diba, papansinin niyo ba siya kung mababa siya sa surveys?
Well, the problem really is, that the Marcos family has, participated, led this effort to try to paint what were the most nightmarish years in our country as a golden era. No? And I think that's, the guy is not running on any platform. It's just on this image. And what we are going to do in this campaign is to expose the fact that he has feet of clay, he has no record, okay? And that all that is being presented is an image that is wrong, that in fact was not the case. He's running on the Marcos legacy of repression and oppression and exploitation. And I think by the time that this campaign is midway, this guy's going to go down in the polls. I mean, Filipinos will appreciate the truth about this fellow. I mean, this is Marcos running again. Is, as I said, this family raped the country for 14 years. They never made any apologies, and this guy wants to rape the country again. Filipinos are not that foolish.
And this is why you want to campaign against them, because, as some people have said, a Marcos victory at the polls would be like vindication for them, right? And in a sense, these elections are like a referendum, not just on President Duterte, but on EDSA 86, correct?
Well, I mean, I think that's true. It will be a referendum on, to some extent, on the inadequacies of what happened of the EDSA government. But I think more important is, that this is really an image of the past, the Marcos era, that is untrue, that is being sold at this point in time. As we said, I and my running mate, Leody de Guzman, are out to, the reason that we're in this process is because we are out to stop the Marcos Duterte axis of evil. And in order to do that, we are presenting a vision for the future that does not bring us back to the dark era of the Marcos period.
Well, sir, yes.
That goes away from the inadequacies of the EDSA period, and of course, away from the bloody reign of Duterte. We are presenting a program, very detailed program for the future, and that's what differentiates us from the other candidates.
Well, part of this effort, like you say, to defeat this axis of evil, as you call it, is to exhume the body of Ferdinand Marcos from the Libingan ng Mabayani, where it is currently buried, and return it to Batac. So are you saying that if you and Leody de Guzman were to win, the two of you would personally go to the Libingan and oversee the exhumation of the remains and its return to Batac, Ilocos Norte?
Yes, and we will charge the Marcos family for the expenses of the exhumation, as well as, sending it to Batac. But as I said, if Madame Tussauds Wax Museum is interested in this waxen image of Marcos, then we'll sell it to the, Madame Tussauds, and the money goes to, the Philippine government, So as far as we're concerned, let's exhume that body, get it out, get it to Batac, or send it to Madame Tussauds in Hong Kong.
Would they be interested?
I would imagine so. Madame Tussauds would, they take all sorts of images, including waxen images.
Just recently, Bongbong Marcos, through his lawyer, submitted drug test results to PIDEA and the NBI and the PNP. You believe them, of course. Do you?
I would never believe anything submitted by a liar like Marcos. I mean,
Even
this
if it
guy
is-
lied about
Yeah.
his university degree, right?
Even if it is supposedly a certification from a renowned hospital, St. Luke's, although we did try to get official word from them.
Well, I would not put anything beyond this family. They could buy St. Luke's for all I care. This is not something that you would take firsthand coming, from Marcos. And as I said, if the COMELEC wants to requires us to do drug testing, Calyode and I will do it, but we're not going to do it to participate in this circus that is mainly out to clean Bongbong Marcos. No, this is not. And unfortunately, Isko Moreno and Soto, etc., they're all participating in this circus at this point in time, and it's shameless. It's shameful.
Okay, well,
we
Leni
should
Robredo
address-
said she would undergo drug testing, basta random. But anyway, sir, we need to take a very quick break. When we return, we'll still have with us Vice Presidential hopeful Walden Bello. Welcome back. This is our up close segment with Vice Presidential aspirant Walden Bello. Sir, I think we've talked enough about Bongbong Marcos in the first segment of the show, but so let's move on. There are a few questions here about the government's pandemic response and how you and Calyode de Guzman, if you were to win, would like to handle differently the pandemic, the crisis.
Well, we have a 13-point program, to contain COVID-19. One of the first elements of this is that we want to be able to have 75% of the population have a second dose by September 2022. That is very close, if not on herd immunity. Okay, and we will also want to make sure that all 50% of seniors have a booster shot by then, and 100% of healthcare workers and 50% of the immunocompromised. Okay. Secondly, we will make sure that we will allocate 250 billion pesos for the budget for FY 2023, which is the fiscal year we will be there, to COVID-19 related medicines and vaccines, as well as treatment. And we will prioritize the purchase of Milsorvir, which is one of the major COVID-19 mitigation medicines. And we will make sure that the first line of defense is preventive measures, and that first line of defense against COVID-19 is in fact in place. So this 13-point program is very much all linked to each other. But Pia, the important thing is that we are able to generate the resources to be able to have an effective program. And we are going to do that by taxing the rich, making sure that there's hemorrhage of payment of foreign debt is stopped, okay? And making sure, that, all of these allocations for things like the NTF ECLAC, which is use LCAC,
Yes. Okay.
is reallocated to the health budget and particularly to COVID-19 containment.
okay.
So we have the measures and we have the proposals to fund them, because it is irresponsible to have measures without also presenting proposals to fund them. And that is what you see
Okay.
in our
All right.
program.
Yeah, well, I'm sure all these big businessmen heard you when you said you taxed them. But anyway, I wish we
we're
had more
going to
time.
tax
Pero,
them.
yeah.
We're talking about $1 trillion to be gained, from taxing the top 250 billionaires in the country. And we're serious about that.
Thank you so much for being with us. I hope we can have you back here again, Vice Presidential Aspirant Waldo Bello, sir. Maraming salamat po.